The making of the Never-Ending Story was a real roller coaster ride, a wild roller coaster ride.
This movie was something that everybody could relate to.
One of the greatest films that has ever been made, in my opinion.
This is the place where the Never-Ending Story was shot.
The story itself is really, really profound and deep.
It gives me goosebumps even to just talk about it now.
Never-ending story.
It's got that X factor.
Noah, he's had a lot of trauma from the business.
I had to learn how to walk together.
Anybody who's been famous since they were a child to an adult, I can assure you that they're not in reality.
Yeah, cash literally saved my life. And I just lost my mom last week. Dog was much harder.
You're looking at 30 years of neglect.
I know Michael Ende didn't like the film.
Wolfgang's ego became even bigger.
Diciamo, più semplice e più efficace.
And the painting is telling me what to do. The horse was really going downhill.
I tell people I got a fishbowl with dollar bills. Please take one because I know you went to therapy.
This is the first time I'm back in Munich since I was 10 years old.
So many of us as children of the 80s are now adults. We're showing it to other generations over the years, and it just remains a part of our lives.
People hark back to that time in their life before responsibility, before, dare I say, some pain.
It's perfect.
But that's another story.
How was that at the time?
It was a little overwhelming, if I'm really honest. We thought we were doing a small German film. We really didn't know what we were getting into. And then, of course, when it was released, it wasn't as popular. It was a Warner Brothers studio release and all that. But the film sort of picked up steam like as a cult classic. Like it became more popular as time went by. So it's kind of an interesting trajectory, yeah.
And then obviously the song was used in Stranger Things. And
yes, which I was watching with my husband, and we were like, yeah.
Was that nice to sort of like, oh, it's still remembered? And...
It was really nice, it was. Well, also, you know, we had been batting around, my husband, who's also an actor and a director, a writer, maybe doing a film, and he was like, come on, Tammy, and I'm like, oh, how are we gonna do it? It's impossible, it's so hard. And there were all these weird signs, and I say I'm not a sign person, then I'm like, but there were signs, so you decide whether I am or I'm not. But so we sort of found this poster right outside our house of the Never-Ending Story. It was like a billboard on our block. And he's like, check it out, people still care about the Never-Ending Story. And I was like, huh. So it's this huge Falcor. And then we like went home, and then we're like watching our favorite TV show, and then the Never-Ending Story theme song comes on. And so it did sort of impress upon me that there was a kind of 80s nostalgia in the air, and that if we wanted to do an 80s style film, this would be a good moment.
And you are doing an 80s style film, aren't you?
And we are, and we did.
Tell us a little bit about that. There is research there into the career path. How did you get to this?
Yeah. With luck and a luck dragon. No, so I loved theater from a very young age. I was born, my parents were archaeologists, so I was born in Iran, and then we moved multiple countries before we landed in the States. So for me, theater was home. It was like the one consistent place that didn't belong to any country. It's like a country on its own, right? It's like the stage. And so wherever we went, I would escape into the theater and feel home. And so a casting agent was casting for the Never-Ending Story in San Francisco, and she happened to have lunch with my acting teacher. And she said, do you want to come audition? And I was like, sure. I was, I'm very busy. I'm Piglet in a school play, Winnie the Pooh right now, but I'll see if I can fit it in. And I told my parents, and they were like, sure, you can go to the audition. They had no idea what I was auditioning for. And I showed up in pig makeup because I had come straight from the matinee show. And the woman who'd been in the acting class was horrified. She's like, what is on your face? And I was like, well, I am Piglet, I didn't have time to get here. So she's like in the bathroom smearing this greasy pink stuff across my face, and I go in and I do the audition, and very surprised, got a call back from Wolfgang Peterson, and he just said, is there any way the second audition she could not be in pig makeup? And so I really lucked into it. I didn't have an agent, I didn't come from an acting family, just pure luck.
Well, maybe that was the reason, because they knew they were going to do all the makeup and the prosthetics and everything in the film. So they went, oh, she's up for it.
She's up for anything. Blessing as a girl actress to be given that role, and it's something that I feel really, really impacted me and is really special about Enda's story and the way that Wolfgang portrayed it is, I just think that the world gives so much attention to muscles and might and being able to be strong enough to knock somebody down in battle. And I just thought it was so profound that this person she looks young, but she's actually old and sick and fragile, and how wisdom and patience are actually kind of superpowers. And it sort of like reframes how you see power. And as a little girl, I was like, oh.
And now you have your own little girl as well, who is in your film.
That's right, she's 10 in this film. I was 10 in the Neverending Story. Weird, life is weird.
How's that been, sort of bringing all of your family into the world of film?
A little bit about Maya in the film.
Yeah, we knew that it was so important to make a fantasy film, right? Like, it didn't make any sense for Tammy to wait for 40 years and come back and kind of some weird contemporary film, right? We wanted to make like a fantasy film. So we also knew that it was going to be a labor of love. It's an independent film. It's going to take many years. It's going to take a lot of hours. And we have one child, and she's 9, 10 years old. And it really felt like it was going to be a strange thing to take the next 4 years to do something that she wasn't involved with at all, right? So I felt really strongly like she needed to be in the film. And also, she was exactly the same age that Tammy was when she was in the Neverending Story, and it just seemed like it was going to be a complete gesture, right? To have Tammy come back and also to see her own child in the film. So yeah, that was the motivation. We had a lovely role that was fitting that bill, and she was willing. She was willing. It was a challenging shoot. It was in Scotland in March. Yeah.
So I have one story about her. Like, we didn't know how she'd be on set, and we asked her, do you want to do it? And she said yes, but you're never really sure, you sort of like, am I roping her into this? And there's one moment where she was rigged up in a very tall tree. I'm not going to tell you why, you have to see the film. And to rig her up there, it just took so long, like hours, to get all the rigs right. And then it's Scotland, so suddenly it started hailing, it's rainy and then it's sunny and then it hails. And so she's sitting up in the tree and she's just blue, and she's supposed to like shoot a bow and arrow, and her hand is like unable to close and open. And I'm like, oh my God, child services are gonna come and take me away. Like, what have I done to my baby? And she's up in the tree, and the director's like, do you want me to take her down, and we'll unrig her and we'll warm her up, and then we'll put the rig back, and then we lose the whole day of shooting, right? So I'm like, Maya, are you okay to stay up there? Like, we just have to wait for the hail to pass. And she's up there, and then finally the hail passes, and they're like, oh, she's really cold, should she come down? She'd come down. And she's up in the tree, and she's like, take the shot! Take the shot! And I was like, that's my baby! She's brilliant.
More films on the horizon for Maya?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I think she's going after her papa's footsteps in the writing direction. She's writing a wonderful sci-fi novel right now that she's illustrating. And she's like one of those, she's gonna be a director. She needs to be in charge. She sat in a hail tree. She's like acting.
You've steeled her for everything.
Yeah,
now.
she's like, I think I need to be in the coat on the chair.
So, the Never-Ending Story and with Man and Witch, there's obviously a lot of sci-fi kind of thing. Are there any other films that you watched growing up or watch now that you feel embody those kind of films? Any kind of similar ones?
Go ahead.
So from back in the day?
Back in the day or now, which films do you like to watch and see? And
I mean, we have a canon of films that we watch. That we watch every year, probably a couple times a year. So for us, I would say, right, top of the food chain is the Lord of the Rings films. I don't know why, we like them, we still like them. They're 20 years old now, we love them. It was incredible seeing the Hobbits today.
have you had pictures with everybody?
No, not yet. We'll see. But in terms of 80s films, I would say for me personally, the big ones were, first Time Bandits was a film that I absolutely loved. Just loved how weird it was. The art direction, I was obsessed with. The characterizations and the tiny roles stayed with me. And then also The Princess Bride. So I tend to be a little bit more on the comics, sort of temperament. So for me, The Princess Bride was kind of a perfect film gesture. Like I was 16 when I saw it. I was like, I don't know what that is, but I just love that. So to the extent that we could, we tried to make a film in that vein. I love the romance and the passion and the sincerity of the Never-Ending Story. That's something that we also tried to incorporate into Man and Witch, that there's nothing cynical about the film. It's very strange in a way to make a film that isn't cynical now. So it was hard to just be like, okay, this is a very sincere movie. And then we sent it to Scotland, and the Scots were like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I'm sure they really mean all this stuff. So that was fun. But those are the films that really resonated.
But
for me personally.
it's sincere and comic at the same time. So there's that tension between those two. It doesn't take itself too seriously on the one hand, and yet emotionally the stakes are really high.
I mean, you want Wesley and Buttercup to get together at the end of the movie, right? You really want that. So that's what we wanted to try to create, is can you care about the story even though it's a comic story? Yeah.
And John Cleese is here as well tomorrow.
I know, I'm afraid to meet him. He's a big hero of mine.
Do it anyway. So do you still keep in touch with some of the actors from the show as well, from the film, sorry? Do you still?
I occasionally see Noah at cons. I was here with him in Liverpool a couple of years ago, and that was really great. But only in the event that we run into cons. I live in New York, so I'm not LA based. Yeah. And it was, 40 years ago, so I would say that this is awful, but I was really hoping that Wolfgang would see Man and Witch, because I loved Wolfgang and he was very sweet to me, and I just am devastated that I didn't have a chance to get it done in time.
It was fun. It must have been incredible fun working with him.
I loved working with him.
It seemed it's just an epic scale. The 80s movies always seemed huge in terms of. I was watching clips on, and there was a point where they showed you all the characters that appeared, like Mickey Mouse appears in it, and it was like the little Easter eggs. You're just going, oh, didn't notice that.
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. They employed people from all over the world. There were so many of the best scenic artists and painters and puppeteers and makeup artists, and it was really just incredible.
Is that kind of gone now? Because it's 80s films just seem more epic. It's like you said, it's the difference between puppetry and CGI.
I wouldn't claim to be an expert on how films are made. I went out of the acting sort of film profession. I did a lot of plays in New York over the years. So I did a lot of theater, and I was dancing for a long time. My experience, in the limited experience I've had, is that yes, it's mostly CGI. I did a Czech film where it was all CGI, and that's why when we did Man and Witch, and there was very little time to kind of, it's just so fast and furious now, So yeah, so I think you're right. I think it was a little bit more epic.
Yeah, and it always seems like the scale, and it always seems like there was over budget and sort of like huge things, and we, oh, we'll have a massive sound stage, which sounds kind of fun, but I can understand why studios go, we'll do a green screen. Yeah. So, yeah. Have we got any more questions? Anybody else want to ask anything? Oh, cool. Come over to you.
Hi, I was just wondering that whether or not, Princess Bride, classic, love it, amazing. With Neverending Story, did they let you keep any of the props? I don't mean your dentures. I don't know whether or not you did, I don't know, but...
I'm saving those for next year. So I was supposed to get the dress and the tiara, and it was never shipped to me. And I'm just too polite to complain. Isn't that awful? Was just like, so yeah, I was supposed to receive the dress and the tiara, and it's crazy that I didn't complain, but I was just, you know, kind
probably on eBay now for $1.5 million.
Probably, with my daughter's college fund.
Yeah.
We should start making pens trying to get it.
Yeah. Where is that dress?
Yeah, there we go. Crowdfunding, we can do it.
Well, one of the little stories that I had heard from the crew was, and this is partly why Neverending Story 2 doesn't look the same, was majority of the props and costumes and things were put under a tent, and it snowed and it collapsed, and instead of waiting for it to melt and then save everything, they bulldozed it and claimed it on insurance. So there is a possibility that maybe the dress was in there, but that's why for Neverending Story 2, Colin Arthur said it's the equivalent of trying to rewrite a script that you've already written just from memory, and it'll never be the same, and that's why all the models in the second one look different, so different.
So
silence in the room.
Either that, or it will end up on eBay.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we can hunt for it, and then oh, maybe we won't bother.
It's going to be a replica.
So just to close, everybody got any last questions before we close up, or? Cool. So to wrap up, thank you so much.
I want to ask you guys a question, because I got someone, I wonder if they're here. They were so devastated. Did you hear that they got the rights to remake the Neverending Story? Yeah, Cecil Productions. So raise your hands if you're excited to see what's going to happen with the new one. And raise your hand if you're like, leave it alone, it was done well.
It depends on
raise your hand
who's going to be in it.
Yeah, right.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Depends on who's going to be in it, isn't it? Really?
Raise your hand if you want Tammy to have a cameo in it.
Oh, you've changed the tune now. Oh, if Tammy's in it. Oh, Maya.
Oh, Maya.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah.
Depends on who's in it.
Depends on who's in it. All right, that's a good answer. It was so lovely. Thank you guys for coming to the panel and spending time with us. And
don't forget to go and see Man and Witch, the documentary as well. They're coming out in.
So the Blu-ray's out. Well, it's being made now. It'll be out in 2 weeks. I'll start shipping. But on Tammy's desk, there's a little QR code for 20% off if you buy the Blu-ray through the QR code.
And we also have £20 off the premiere. So come by the table. I'll give you guys free Empress stickers that a wonderful friend of mine made for the 40th anniversary. And say hi. I'd love to meet you.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Tammy. If you want to do a quick picture, nobody wants to come down to the front now, we'll just do a quick picture for...
created. And so I think it's, for me, like when I see it, it's sort of a metaphor. Like I think she encapsulates the hopes and dreams. And so, you know, I think they're just looking for a way, for me, for our poster and for the things we're doing, like a movie poster has to kind of capture the soul of the film in a single image. And it's not like it is today where you have social media and you're like, well, I'll post this image this week and this image this week and this image next week, and you know, it's just different. So having to distill it down, I think, you know, in some ways, for the Neverending Story that Wolfgang did, the film sort of ended at the Empress's gate, as it were. So, I mean, I didn't feel bad. It was my face. That's what you're asking. But I also didn't feel that it was about me. I felt that it was about and trying to kind of drill down into a singular image that might encapsulate like the journey that you were going in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely great sense. Thank you very much, Tammy.
Any more questions?
He's kid, and I love practical effects. I love puppetry. I really wanted to do something that went back to the techniques that they used in the 80s, where, you know, if you're operating a puppet, it's a human with a soul inside of that thing, pouring their chi into the puppet. Digital is very effective, and we did use some digital effects, but there is something about that handmade quality that I really like. So we went back to those techniques. We have Christopher Lloyd in it. Sean Astin narrates the dog. So we got a bunch of Easter egg 80s actors. And it's just a really fun, feel-good.
Sean's here today, isn't he?
He is. We saw him in the green room. It was so fun. It was lovely to see him again. And my husband directed him in the puppetry of voice. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, we can talk about that. Yeah. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Nice to see you. First time in Liverpool. I was really excited. Big Beatles fan, so finally made it here. Yeah, so I got to direct Sean as this Henson Creature Shop puppet, which is a dog character. He's the narrator of the film. And you know, it's pretty crazy. You show up in the studio in LA, and there's Sean Astin. He's just got his coffee, and he's ready to do the job. You know, it's amazing. Anyway, nicest guy you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always nice to hear. And it's nice to hear, but a lot of times in panels somebody just goes, "Who's the worst person you've ever met?"
No, we
No,
don't do that.
no, we're not doing that game. We could certainly play that game, yeah. Yeah. When you make an independent film, you do meet some of the worst people.
Oh right, okay. I was gonna say, doing these Comic Cons, normally everybody's lovely and nobody likes to hear them.
Yeah.
Called Life After Flash, and the second one was Life After the Navigator, which was on Flight of the Navigator. And I really just want to make documentaries about movies that meant so much to my childhood, so it was a given that Never Ending Story I would try and do, and it's certainly been a long journey. I first met Noah Hathaway end of 2019, first met you in Liverpool Comic Con 2020, and then the pandemic hit. But the Blu-ray will be shipping in 2 weeks. So yay! So it's really just been this four-year journey celebrating this iconic movie. We went back to Munich, to Bavaria Studios, and Greg was there as well, to kind of reminisce. Tammy hadn't been there in 40 years, and it's just been a really wonderful celebration of this movie that is so special to all of us. I was very lucky to interview quite a lot of the cast and crew, from poster artist Renato Casaro to Ulderico, who was the conceptual artist, Alan Oppenheimer, who obviously is the voice of everything, Colin Arthur, who made Falkor and the Rockbiter and did all the sculptures for it. So it's very exciting, and it's very surreal that we're sharing a premiere for our films, and it's been really wonderful to be on this indie film journey together. There's been real parallels to it.
That's fantastic. So yeah, have we got like little hidden behind the scenes things, or sort of what can we expect from the documentary?
There are so many behind the scenes. It really is a very comprehensive making of the movie. We were also very lucky to go to Berlin, to the film archive there, because Bernd Eichinger, one of the producers, his whole archive is there. So we had 2 days of rummaging through all the original scripts and original posters and all these behind the scenes photos that I had never seen before, in the production books. And we had some really wonderful insights. Herman Weigel, who wrote the script and produced the film. We interviewed Jos Vacano, who was the DOP, Deep Roy. It's been Lamal, of
Who
course.
will be at her screening.
Who will be on the Friday night at Prince Charles Cinema. Me, Tammy, and Lamal are going to do the Q&A.
And we're all gonna sing the theme song together.
We're all gonna
you should come, because you didn't sing it really today.
We're going to give it a really good shot. And then there's some really wonderful people who were involved in the Never Ending franchise at the weekend as well. So Jason James Richter, who is famous for Free Willy, but was in the third Never Ending Story, he's going to be there the Friday, the Saturday, and the Sunday. And then Frank Lienert, who voiced Deep Roy, I don't know if you realize Deep Roy was dubbed in the film, he's going to be there. Renato Casaro, the poster artist, is going to be there. Some of the actors who are the Fantasia inhabitants, Willie Coppin and Brian Wheeler, if you're Star Wars fans, you'll know them. So it's really just going to be this amazing celebration of never-ending story and fantasy.
And Renato Casara, we did 2 posters for Man and Witch, a modern one, and then we did a vintage one that's going to be unveiled later. And this t-shirt that I'm wearing is actually a wee small piece of the Renato Casara poster, because he did our Man and Witch poster too. And so it was really fun because he painted the Neverending Story one, and then we met him and he did another one. And it's the same thing. It's that hand-painted, like, that's been lost. It's gone digital, you know? So we contacted him. He's 89, is he 90 now?
Yeah, I think 90 this year.
So we were so thrilled. We were like, oh my gosh, he's gonna do it. And it's probably gonna be, you know, it's just like this really special thing that he's still just brilliant. Like his eyesight, like his detail, like everything is perfect.
And if you're not familiar with Renato Casara's art, apart from the Neverending Story poster, he started back in the spaghetti western days of Sergio Leone and did just James Bond and Cliffhanger and Rambo and Flash Gordon and Dancing with Wolves. And look up his artwork, you will know the artwork. He's so special.
2,000 posters. Like, it's a crazy career. Yeah, beautiful.
That's fantastic. Is it stuff that has been lost then? Because it's like in the 80s. I don't know, there's a lot of TV and film stuff in Britain that has been just thrown away. So have you found stuff that has sort of like been hidden away, or sort of like you'd never thought you'd find before?
There are definitely stories that I didn't think I would ever hear. You know, it was no secret that Neverending Story was not a smooth production, but it was really interesting to hear, even though everyone had wonderful memories of it and was so proud to have worked on it and really loved the final product, it was really amazing to hear how many people felt slighted or just done wrong by or didn't get the recognition. And it was actually quite fascinating that this film that is obviously so magical to so many was really not the easiest. It was harder than I thought it was from what I'd read.
So I'm going to open it up. We've talked a lot. Has anybody got any questions? There we go. I'll run over. It's all right. You keep on of that. There's four of them. All right. Tell us your name. Tell us your question. Everybody else start thinking of other questions as well. Anything.
No, my name's James Edwards. We met at Liverpool Comic Con before, so you know.
Dinner room this morning, I walked in and there's 4 hobbits sitting at the table. Bucket list accomplished, right? Like I could go home, texted my brother. I'm like, guess who I'm with right now? It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
So you're working with Jim Henson's Creature Shop?
Yeah, they made the puppets for it. So the pandemic helped us in a way. It was a funny moment because obviously all of production was shut down for the pandemic. But it meant that everyone was sort of hanging out with nothing to do. So when we sent the script over to the Henson Creature Shop, they said, well, we can't go into work, but we will build this in our garages at home. So that's what they did. And they're photorealistic puppets. So we cast animals and sent them photos, and then they built the puppets to look like the actual animals. It's kind of amazing, yeah.
Fantastic. And is it relatable to the Neverending Story as well? Did you get to, because you weren't on set that much, your part is, yeah, it's but it's that's how good you are. It's only small, but it's a big part of the thing. But did you get to meet Falkor and all the?
Yes, I did. I mean, the prep for Neverending Story was epic. I don't know that people. Not so many films get the opportunity to prep that long. I mean, they took a month to just figure out what I was gonna wear. You know, when we did an independent film, so fast and furious, they were like, 2 shots, close up, medium, go, close up, medium, go. You know? And in the Neverending Story, it was like, you know, just months to figure out a look and drawings upon drawings. And just my teeth took 2 weeks to sort out because one of my teeth fell out and I had to go to the dentist. So it was just, so I was on set walking through these sound studios, walking into the costume shop and looking at the costumes and just hanging out at the studios. I really got to see a lot because even though it was a small time, the prep was so extensive.
And you was talking about your teeth as well. Did you have to have coaching because you apparently had a lisp?
Yeah, I had to wear this horrific denture because I lost my canine teeth just before filming. The director was like, Wolfgang was like, what are we gonna do? We had just 2 giant holes there. So I had to get this big mold of my teeth made. And if you look at the film, it's just a fun thing. The first scene and the second scene were filmed several months like apart. There was a little space between them, and the teeth were like fell out and grew in halfway. And then by the time I did the second scene, they were like low enough that he felt I could get away with it. And he was like, just don't smile big, gummy smile. So if you see the second scene, it kind of looks, I think it's a kind of an interesting acting cue, because she almost looks like she has a secret. And now you know the secret. I'm not allowed to show you my teeth. It's not as deep. So the teeth in the first scene where Atreyu comes are these massive teeth. If you look at them closely, they're like enormous. And then the teeth in the second scene are my teeth, although you'll have to squint to really find them, because I did quite a good job hiding them.
So these are all great stories, and I believe you've got a friend here who's going to be, so is Lisa here?
Lisa's in the house.
Hello, Lisa. Well, Lisa's going to be doing a documentary, I believe.
Yeah, I just want Lisa to come down. I want you guys to hear Lisa's story, because I met Lisa 3 years ago, and she did a film called Life After the Never-Ending Story, and it's been really fun because she documented my whole journey of making Man and Witch, which was an insane roller coaster ride. We rented our house in New York and flew to Scotland to do the film, and then that's because production had shut down in New York. So the first time we tried to get the production up and running in New York, everything got shut down with the pandemic. So then we found out that Scotland was still allowing production. So we moved, rented our house, landed there, interviewed people. We didn't know a soul. It was all very crazy, and then everything shut down in Scotland. And then Lisa interviewed me, and I was sitting in a house in
Inverness.
Was it Inverness or was it Findhorn? It was in Findhorn. It was in Findhorn. I was in Findhorn, just across from Norway. And she was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. My house is rented, and I'm just sitting in this really lovely house in Findhorn, wondering if we'll ever make a film here." So she kind of followed the whole journey, and we're actually sharing our premieres. So her film, Life After the Never-Ending Story, and our film, Man and Witch, are both premiering this weekend of June. It's May 31st.
May 31st for Never-Ending Story documentary, and then across 1st and 2nd of June for the Fantasy Con, and then the Man and Witch premiere.
Yeah, and so it's just so fun because we ended up colliding at having the same premiere at the same Fantasy Con. So come down, and if people have questions about the
My sister wants to know if you were close to anyone on set.
So Barrett and Noah and I played all the time. The three of us were in a hotel in Munich, and there was a giant swimming pool, and we were all just 10-year-old kids, and we'd be like, "Let's go." Yeah, so we all got on really well, and yeah, it was really fun. I mean, I think it was really, we were all starved for other kids because it was a whole summer of not seeing any other kids, so we were pretty invested in getting along. That's who you had, you know? But yeah, we had a good time.
Oh, thank you.
So there was also, with it being an 80s film as well, the themes of it, sort of like, were you going through some of the things that they talk about in Never-Ending Story as well? Because there's a lot about bullying and sort of like loss and stuff like that. Did you feel that as kids?
Yeah, for sure. I think the themes, I mean, the fact that it's 40 years later and we're still here having a conversation about this story, I think they're very relatable themes. And I think, you know, bullying and sort of feeling like you don't fit in, it's almost a universal feeling. You know, you could even look the part of the popular person and still inside feel very disconnected and kind of out of the loop, right? Like I think how to connect to the world and how to keep the things that are precious to us alive without letting other people like squash them. You know, that's like an ongoing struggle. Yeah.
And then the Childlike Empress, it's also, you were obviously a child, but you were playing somebody who was actually a little bit more adult in their head as well.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
that difficult, or?
Well, so in my mind, she was 300 years old.